Boom! Good evening, good afternoon, good day, wherever you are and wherever you may be. I am your host, Samuel Davis III, and we are here to uplift our community, powered by Bridge Visions. Today, I always got things running through my head and what's going on and what am I going to talk about today or what are we going to discuss? And you know what? I've been having an existential crisis, it seems like. Things have been going on in my mind, and I've just recognized friends of mine have parents have passed. Got another friend who's passed just recently, and I'm in this rarefied air, as some people say, going on right now. And my question that I want to ask today to my people is: are you gifted? Do you feel like you're gifted? And the question and the reason why I'm saying this is because so many things have been happening around me lately. I've been paying attention to what's been going on, and I've been looking at not only current events and going on around in the United States, but just my personal biosphere, just my little bubble. And I got people that rely on me. I got people that depend on me, and I really haven't recognized the sacredness of being that people depend on me and that I got a lot of people that I don't give myself the credit. How does that sound? I don't give myself the credit for the things that I do and for who I'm around. So when I ask, are you gifted? Do you feel special? Do you feel in your heart of hearts that if I was to be gone today, that everything would just go as normal, like, or are there people around you? Is there someone who you're close to or that's in your life that you know of that it would change everything for them? Do you feel gifted? Do you feel that who you are as a person? Like, for instance, I get in the car and I drive. I know I'm going to drive and come back. I'm not going to drive off a cliff because I know I got things to do. I'm going to the store to pick up some groceries. I'm going to do some shopping. I got responsibilities. So I'm coming back. But what if I didn't make it back? Would the world go on? Would people just keep on moving without me? How I feel I am gifted. When I go out, I come back, I do things. There are people who depend on me, and I feel good about that. But I just wanted to know, just real briefly, from each of you guys here, this is just a short one from me to ask you, do you feel gifted? Do you feel that there's somebody that if you weren't here would really feel like, man, I sure do miss such and such. That guy Sam, he sure was something else, but I'm just moving on. Or is there somebody or is there something going on in your life or a person that you sit back and you realize, you know, I'm a gift to this person. I tell you, I'm definitely a gift to my in-laws as I'm a caregiver. I know I'm a gift to them, and particularly because I keep all their secrets. I don't go out to the public and talk about what's going on, and I get their medications. I help them out with things that are going on. So I know to that point, I'm gifted. I know I'm a special gift because at one point in my life, I didn't feel like I was special. Lots of times I beat myself up and I say, you know what? It's just me, just fucking up again, you know? So again, I want to ask you, and I'm going to bring you all on at one time. Do you feel gifted? Do you feel that you have somebody out there that cares about you? Do you feel that there's love in the air and you are a part of it and you are special yourself? Do you feel gifted?
I'm just overwhelmed knowing that we can curse now because I've been holding back. Okay. So heck yeah.
Jerome, then go ahead. Start us off then. Let's hear them curse words you got.
Well, gosh darn it, I might run for office, so let me hold on. So, all right, but the original question you're saving for is gifted. There's a duality in being quote unquote gifted. There's a duality, in my opinion, and it's one thing that what you bring to the world, but it's one thing of what the world receives of you. And I feel that I have certain gifts that I am happy to share. Like for let's say, as far as my community work, I've helped feed 1,000 families a month in the city of St. Louis and the surrounding areas. So very proud about that. And then there's a part about what others would receive of that. I may bring food to different communities that are in need, but I find a lot of times that they tell me what they really get out of it is the companionship and the compassion and talking and sharing about what's going on in the community in our lives, and that the of bringing those different lives together for a sense of community. So I have an idea of what I give to people, but I do appreciate the people that are in my community that reminds me of the other attributes that they receive from me that I might not even know that I'm giving. You know, so I'm very thankful for that. So
you know what, Jerome? I almost forgot. Each and every one of you is special, but you know what? That thing that you do, feeding those people, bro, man, yes, you are special. You are a gift. The things that you do, how did I even forget? Each and every one that I've spoken to you, each of you are special in your own way. But let me tell you, what do you feed? About 2,000 people a week?
2,000 families a week. Yes, actually.
Families, not people. Families.
Families. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, see what I'm saying? Now that's a gift, and whether you know it or not, you know, it's like you should be walking around. Your stuff should be ringing. Your little bell should just be jingling all day long. Because man, do you know how that feels for somebody who doesn't have nothing to be able to come when they see you go by? And they go, hey, there goes Jerome. Oh, yeah. There he goes right there on that scooter, whatever that was he had on. You know, I'm serious.
Yeah,
it's something that you have, and that is, oh man, that is huge.
But you know, that's something, you know, especially some of these great people on the panel, some of the amazing things they told me, and I've got a chance to learn through you, Samuel, is that I'm very humbled because of what I think that I may give to a group or our community or person, which they tell me, you know, I feel that is the strength, but it's something totally different. You know, I will sometimes there are days when we get these shipments for food and what have you. You're breaking your back in 100-degree plus weather, heat, the whole dealing with all that chaos, and you're just like, okay, I'm getting old. I can't do this anymore. And it'll be the little senior citizens like, can I talk to you? You know, they pull you over, and I'm like, yes, ma'am. What can I do for you? I said, thank you. This is just amazing. And I'll blush, and it's hard to pull off with this chocolate in this, right? and I know that I never wasted a day in my life when I got a chance to help people that way.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go. Wow. Anybody else want to jump in on that?
Wait, hold up. There's free food somewhere?
You come to St. Louis, I'll take care of you, buddy. All right, you come to St. Louis. But I know Mrs. Joko, she mentioned a few things before about like some of the work that she does, you know, especially she's a very spiritual person, you know, so, you know, and matter of fact, you were helping for us. What's that? And I go out on a limb here, Reiki.
Yes.
In like
that is one aspect.
Okay. One, please.
One aspect. Hold on. You want to light us up now. That was Go ahead.
We won't go deep. We won't go deep. I do feel gifted at times. Well, I feel gifted every day. I really do. I have wonderful friends. I have a wonderful son, a big, giant, great family. I feel gifted often. I mean, pretty much every day. And also in my line of work as a driver, I'm always in conversation with people in ways that I did not imagine I would be. Sometimes I'd say that I am a bartender on wheels, minus the alcohol. I'm shocked at the subject matters that are broached, but I like that I always create a safe atmosphere, good atmosphere for people to speak what is on their mind, minus any and all judgment. Um, I'm surprised at how many people have gotten in the car and just sort of needed to vent or needed peace or were needing to understand a perspective. I just never imagined that that would be part of this aspect of being a driver. But it's come up so much now that it's just sort of undeniable. Do I feel like I am a gift? Uh, I think Jay would say that I am. I think I'm not sure that I see it really in that light. I think it is part and parcel of really what it is to be human. I'm not sure I see it as a gift, more so as just an opportunity, a wonderful opportunity, but an opportunity. These opportunities come by us all the time. And I don't know that I see it as something that I would call necessarily a gift, more so mm, really what it is to be human. An opportunity presents itself for you to maybe shine a light for somebody when they're going through darkness,
How about your
and
son?
you just do it.
How
My
about
son, oh, he thinks I'm a gift for sure.
okay? I'm like, come on now. You act like you got to like us pulling teeth with you now. A
I have the
joker.
kind of son that tells me every day. He
Oh, see what
definitely.
I'm saying? Okay, now I know you got something there now. You act like you're reaching for straws or something now. A Joko, if you don't feel that, you are a gift. Then I'm gonna tell you right now, you need a couple more weeks coming up here in this on this podcast here, because you are a gift. Each and every one of you, every time we sit back and have a talk, when you guys show up, I'm like, oh, got a Joker here today. Oh, Dave's here. Oh, no, Robin's here. Man, each of you are a gift. In your breakup communities where you go out to, you're all a gift. What we do here when we start talking, have these conversations, what I consider and what I call high-minded conversations, we elevate each other's spirits and get pumped up, and then we go forth. And that's what this is all about. So
I
you
do
are
believe I have something to offer. I
there you
just hadn't
go.
elevated it to the
There we
level
go.
of gift in any different way from anybody else. I think most of us do offer what we can to the collective and to one another on a daily basis. I don't think we think about it, but we're always offering that smile in the store,
Yep.
that conversation, that compliment when a person needed it and you didn't know it. You just paid the compliment you felt was due, but
Yep.
it made their whole day,
Yep.
right? The energy that we give off when we're around other people, we just don't think about it, but I think we just kind of give it off all the time wherever we are.
Yep.
But I'll take it. I'll take it. I'm gifted.
Well, look, before I break out into Rob, and he's over there looking all deep in thought. I was gonna say something that caught my mind and reminded me when I was working in prison. I asked an inmate. We had a phone call. We had to bring a guy down for a legal visit. I asked an inmate after I hung the phone up. They called on the radio, and I said, "Hey, what's going on?" They said, "Blah blah blah. Bring him out for a legal visit." I said, "Okay." I put the phone down. I looked up, and I saw an inmate walking by towards that area. And I said, "Hey, can you go grab such and such?" Now he could have looked at me and said, "Man, F you," you know, whatever. He could have said whatever he wanted to say. It would have been his right. He went and did it. He went and got that guy, and I came back. And when he came back, I said, "Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate it." Turned around and walked, and all of a sudden I heard, "Ah!" It's like there was a fight going around. I turned around. This guy was running up. He was hanging on the bars. He was like, "Hey, who said that? Who said that?" And I was like, "Who said what? What are you talking about? Who said thank you? I've been here for 90 days. No one has said thank you. Who said that?" I said, "That was me." I was telling the guy. And that thing there stuck with me. Just the little tiny little thing, just saying thank you in a prison to someone, you just don't know how you affect somebody. It's just what you mentioned, Joko. You walking out in the store and you say hello to somebody, and they might have had the worst day ever. And you're right there. You're that light. I like being that light. And that day from there on always told me to always keep that light on and keep that attitude, because I thought the guy got stabbed. The way he sounded, coming running up there, like, oh man. But to sit back there and to make me, you know how it hits you too. You know, when you do something for somebody, it makes you feel good because deep down inside, we all know that that's why we're here. We're here to help. We're here to give back. Each and every one of you, you all know that. Sometimes we get a little lost and we kind of forget it. So next up, I know you guys do not know this. Robin's got a whole stable full of horses, and I know they didn't think he's a gift because if he doesn't come up there and clean all that muck out and clean all the hoofs and the dirt and all that stuff, I know that them horses consider Robin a gift. Come on, Robin.
Yeah. Okay. So, when you talk about, being a gift or not, I think I would mostly start to look at it in terms of going above and beyond, you know, because at the very bottom line, and you sit there and you say, I have something, like a couple of you already used the phrase, I have something to offer. If I go to work, uh, my job, when I go to a job and somebody says, okay, I'm going to pay you money, uh, it is my task to be worth more than I cost, because otherwise, why should they do it? I mean, that doesn't make sense, right? If you work for a business, like, it doesn't matter if you work for McDonald's or Walmart or whatever, right? Ultimately, you may think that your job is to flip burgers, but really your job is to make the stockholders richer, right? That's why they pay you, because ultimately, if the stockholders could, of the company could make money without hiring you, they would, but they can't. They need you to do that. So you're presenting a necessary function. And then at the next level is like, well, and by the way, are you selling more burgers in 1 hour than $15, right? You got to sell more than $15 worth of burgers in 1 hour to justify your $15 an hour minimum wage, or whatever the local minimum wage is wherever you live, right? You got to do that. If you're not doing that, then you're a liability. You're an expense. You're not making money for the company, and there's no reason. And I wouldn't blame them to hire you. And a lot of people sit there and say, well, it's funny because I have a lot of coworkers that are pretty ungrateful about where they work, and everyone thinks that they should get paid more, and I can't believe they don't pay me more. And I'm like, listen, when you go home and you hire anybody to do anything, whether it's a plumber to fix the sink, or a mechanic to fix your car, you're going to act just the same way. You want to make sure that this person gives you, they charge you $300 to fix something, it better be fixed at the end of the day. Or you're not going to be happy about it, and you're not going to you're not going to go back to the guy, or you're going to argue about how much you're paying them. The second thing that came up when you're talking about, Sam, was that, if you died or something, would anybody miss you? And I start to think about some pretty top level guys on whom a great deal depends, and they have families, they have children, they have businesses, they have all kinds of people. The quickest one that comes to mind is Anthony Bourdain, the famous chef. He had this travel show, and he was this famous chef, and he would, he had restaurants, and he had a family, and he had children, and then he committed suicide, a couple years ago. Did the world fall apart? Did the entire, the infrastructure come to a crashing halt? No. In fact, sometimes, quite often, very few people even remember who he was. In fact, I think perhaps the thing he's most famous for is being the butt of a joke made by Dave Chappelle about committing suicide. Dave Chappelle said, this guy had the whole world by his hands. Why did he commit suicide? I know people in prison, like Sam, people in prison, that just nothing ever goes right for them. And never once did they think about committing suicide. And so, if you ask me, if I died today, would anybody miss me? Well, of course, I have friends and family that would miss me. But would the world come to an end? No, because I am going to die, and the world better not be that fragile, because that day will come. And if the day is going to fall, if the world's going to fall apart because of it, then it's a pretty fragile place. And I would actually be disappointed in their resiliency. So that's my view on it. Now, the last thing is, when I mentioned it earlier, is, are you going above and beyond? Are you doing things you don't need to do? And that's where, when you talk about gratitude, where you thank someone you don't have to thank, you're not on the hook for thanking them. The server at the restaurant, the poor beleaguered worker behind the desk at the airport after after your flight got delayed, and they weren't in charge of the weather. It's not their fault, right? you know, and yeah, absolutely. You need to be, or you should. You don't need to be, because there's nothing that says you have to. Just like Sam said, you said that you asked that guy to go do something for you, and he didn't have to, but he did it anyway. Um, I think it's in those small acts and those areas where you're actually going above and beyond, and you're doing something that no one expects you to do, and no one's paid you to do it, and you generally, other than feeling good about it, you don't really have any skin in the game, and you do it anyway. And I think it's important for us to realize that those are the true moments where we can be a gift to the world around us.
So before don't shut that mic down yet, man. I
Oh.
still didn't get what I wanted to get at you, man. That was a very philosophical, well thought out soliloquy you just gave us right there. Very beautiful. You've impressed Mr. Harris and Ajoko for their teaching in that class. But I'm talking about deep down inside of your heart. Do you feel that you are a gift, Robin? Do you feel that you are a gift? I don't want no BS. Don't give me none of that stuff that you got up in your pocket, or don't bring out the thesaurus. Are you a gift? Do you feel it? Do you feel that inside of your heart of hearts that I am a gift? Whether it's to my wife, whether it is to that stable of horses, but do you feel that you are a gift?
Oh, that's a very easy answer, because of what I just told you. Of course I feel that I am so, because if I didn't feel that, it's almost like walking, or walking across walking across your living room, right? And you feel like, you step on the carpet and you feel a little uneven, and your body compensates. So you start to fall a little bit to one side, and you go, oh shit, I'll just compensate real quick, and then keep on walking. And you did that constantly. Same thing when you're driving your car. Your car drifts a little bit to the right, and you turn the steering wheel, and you keep it steady, and you stay on course. And as long as I keep in my mind that I need to be worth more than I cost, not just financially, but emotionally and psychologically, to everybody and everything around me, right? And you might sit there and say, well, that's kind of mercenary way to look at it. But man, every single one of you have people in your life that, even if you're not paying them a salary, emotionally, psychologically, and sometimes physically, they are a cost, and they cost more than they're worth, right? And it's just like, basically you're the gift to them, and they're in a sense, like, you gotta deal with these difficult people or difficult circumstances or situations. So if you ask me, do I feel like I'm a gift? Of course I feel like I'm a gift, because if I didn't feel like I was a gift, I would course correct immediately, because I keep that in my mind. Did I do the right thing today? Right? Was I worthwhile today? Same thing when you're at work and you do your job, and you sit there and you look at, you finish doing a spreadsheet, or a document, or digging a ditch, you're working with your hands, or whatever, you're working in the jail and you're locking doors, right? Did you lock them all, or did you miss one? Right? And you got to look back there and you go, oh shit, I missed one. Go back there and you lock it, right? You do it. You do whatever it is you're supposed to do, so that at the end of the day, you are worth more than you cost, because we all cost something on this world. We're all breathing air. Everybody has to walk around you. Everybody has to live around you. And do they sit there and do they go, oh, I'm glad he's here, or, oh shit, now he's here. Now I got to do more for nothing. Right. We've all had coworkers like that. We've all had supervisors like that. We've all had family members like that where you're just like, oh shit, I was hoping he wouldn't show up, but here he is, right? And I have been on both sides of that. There were times in my youth and as a younger man, I was a complete asshole at times. And it wasn't just the entire time of being young, but there were days when I was a real shithead and there was just like, oh, holy shit, why, I can't believe that people put up with me. But putting up with me is exactly what they had to do because I was worth less than I cost. I cost a lot more than I was worth. Okay. And over time, as I grow, turn into an old graybeard, we've all been doing this. As you get older, you start to learn, you start to be more polite to people, you start to sit there and say, hey, I've got to course correct because, I'm an asshole. It's simple, right? And don't do that.
Let me ask you this. Did you journal today?
Did I journal today? Not yet. I just got up.
Okay. Because I was wondering, as I did glance over your journal one time when we were online and you showed me some stuff, I saw how you were journaling, and I guess you must really keep yourself in a Zen state of mind because it seems like you are course correcting all day long, obviously, and that's a normal thing for you. Because I remember the details in your journal when you were showing me a while back, and I looked at that. So you must constantly be in a state of Zen all day long. You don't let things get you too much, huh?
Well, the thing is this, Sam, and this is the hard part, is that you being a decent person and being nice and stuff. I mean, you guys are some nice people, and that's not who I am. I'm not fundamentally a decent human being, right? I grew up, as a child, right, overseas, and so there was a lot of racism, which I absorbed as normal, right? There was a lot of entitlement, which I absorbed as normal, right? And I had to unlearn a lot of things. And there is still fundamentally within me a callousness, a callous nature that I have to, I have to, well, let's put it this way. The rules of politeness in society, social rules of, what does it mean to be rude and what does it mean to be polite, right? Those rules were created for people like me because good people don't need rules. You don't need to tell a good person not to be an asshole because they're just not assholes, right? You don't need to tell good people, hey, you know what? It's illegal to shoot your neighbor, right? You shouldn't do that. You can't do that. It's illegal. Well, why shouldn't I? He's an asshole. I didn't like him. He cut his tree down and it hit my fence. Why can't I just shoot him? Because it's illegal and the cops will come and put you in jail. And for somebody like me who will go, oh yeah, you're right. That's why. Instead of, how about it's just wrong to kill people, right? Right? Well, that's not good enough for assholes, right? You need the law, and what do you call it? It's a lighter version of the law is social rules, right? Please and thank you. You teach kids that. You say a lot of times you have you have a kid. You teach them say please, say thank you. The first couple of times you teach them that, they don't know why, right? They just know it's the rule. Like if you say, hey, if he says up to you, says, hey, give me some cake, and you say, what do you say? And if he doesn't say please, he learns that he doesn't get the cake. That's why, right? He doesn't really fully understand that whether or not you get the cake, you still should say that, right? Because that's what good people do. And these social rules, right? Because like I have some tragedies and things, and and sometimes I have to almost pretend to be sad or to be happy about certain things because if you don't, then you're some kind of a monster and you don't fit in with society, right? And you have to fit in. I mean, if you ever watch that show Dexter, I identify with that guy. He goes, shit, someone just died. I guess I'm supposed to feel sad. Okay, I got to put on the sad look, right? Right? And they go, okay, sad look, okay, all right, yeah, And then, okay, okay. And in the back of my head is like, yeah, everybody fucking died. Why are you shocked at that? People die every fucking day. There's thousands of them. I killed some of them myself.
Is it just me or a lot of red flags going off?
No. A lot of
It's the cats.
self-examination.
It's the
A
cows.
lot of self-examination and honesty on a level that now I understand why you use the term course correct. I know that you're saying that you have put in a lot of work in your evolutionary process of becoming who you are and who you desire to be. And it takes a special kind of willingness to be honest and gift us with that honesty
Yeah, absolutely.
because
Well,
everybody is not capable.
when I went to Avatar with Sam, I think, and Sam may not have remembered the phrase I used at the time, but I said they always ask him, why are you here? What are you working on? And all that kind of stuff. And the biggest thing that I have spent my life trying to do is to work on becoming the person I've always been pretending to be. Right? Because I ain't that person. I'm a lot closer to who that is, but I'm not that person yet. Right? But I've been pretending to be a good person. But, I mean, people say, what was the happiest time of your life? And I was like blowing people away in Kandahar. That's not good. Right?
Yeah.
And that's not right. And it makes you somehow psychotic. Right? But, you have to sit there and say, first, you start out with the realization that, okay, that's not right. And then you keep working on it until you feel that, in addition to it just being a rule. Right? Right now it's a rule. That's and I'm following the rules. In the absence of the rules, I'm not, you don't want me as a neighbor. Right?
Hold on, Robin. So see, this is when you ask a spiritual combat veteran a question. This is what happens. You know what, Robin? When you were just talking, I totally forgot that the background with you at Kandahar and everything else. Yeah, that's a lot to work through. And
right.
Again, the course corrections that you have been doing have been necessary for who you are, because that person that before you went to Kandahar and before you went to Avatar, I would have never probably understood you at all. But now I can. What you got to say, Joker?
To be honest, as he said what he said, I realized he was more he's done a lot of inner work, because to be honest, we all think these things and we all feel these things, and we automatically shut them down in terms of the conversations that we have with the outside world, right? We have these thoughts that go through our mind, these perspectives, and because they are not socially acceptable, or we don't believe people will understand how we got here, and because we can't explain how we got to this thinking, we just negate the conversation, we don't talk to anybody about these thoughts. But I think as he was speaking, I was like, okay, wait a minute, we've all had these moments. We've all had these
Right.
moments, and we just didn't come to terms with it. We're all doing the self-correction. We are literally all doing the self-correction all the time, and we all find it to be necessary. But it is also important, I think, to be able to have this part of the conversation where we acknowledge it. Because if he hadn't said what he said the whole time, we would have been course correcting. And when you explain this to another person, there is the gift, because they have an opportunity to recognize something and understand a bit more about why they do it and how human it is to do exactly that. It's not that one person. It's not Robin. It is all of us. Robin was just quite honest about it.
And I think all I'm trying to say is that, I 100% agree. And I think the only thing is that it's a little easier for some people than others, and the course correction is a little bit less in some cases. I'm never going to be perfect, but
depending on the subject matter.
Right, depending on the subject matter, and and the supervisor that I'm dealing with. and
Oh my.
you know, uh, you know, I mean, the thing is this is that you sit there and say how much did you have to course correct? How often do you have to do it? And how difficult was that process? And that's all that's going to change over time, right? Over time it just becomes natural. I mean, Aristotle taught us this, right? He says, you teach your kids to say please and thank you, and it becomes a habit, and then later on it becomes part of their character. It's not part of their character in the beginning. They don't give a shit. They just want what they want, and they and he says you force them to say please and thank you. You force them to be polite, and over time, good manners becomes character.
Mm.
And it's you no longer have to refer to the manners rule book of like, okay, this person did such and such. What am I supposed to do? Oh, I guess I'm supposed to write a thank you note, right? You don't need to read that book anymore because it's just part of your character. That's part of who you are, and you just naturally do that. It took me a long time to say thank you to waiters and waitresses and people who served me. I mean, it was not until I was an adult before I started doing that shit,
Mm.
you know, because I thought they were beneath me. I don't have to do that. And then I started saying, I should make a habit of it. People would call me out on it and say, hey, you one rude piece of shit, man. And I'd be like, oh, all right. So I don't want to look like I'm a rude piece of shit. So I'm going to follow the rules. And then after following the rules for a little while, I started realizing, hey, you be nicer to them because they are, you, first of all, you're not better than them. Right.
Mm.
And that was a revelation because there are people who are not beneath me. That was news in my 30s. You know, don't wait till your kid's in his 30s to teach him that shit, because it's a brutal lesson when it comes late like that.
Mm. Well, I want to jump in here and send Dave in here. Dave, you want to finish up with what Robin had to say, and then jump into the subject of, do you feel gifted?
Wow. After listening to all of you talk, I think you guys have pretty much touched all the bases. So maybe I can sum up just a little bit. I've come to believe that somewhere long ago, human beings lost the realization that we are all a gift to life, and life is our gift. And we just started going inwards really far. And when we go inwards, if you have, well, let's put it this way. I've come to also believe that about 70% of the population is emotionally stunted and they never get out of their 15-year-old self or their 17-year-old self. I don't know what that's about, but psychologically, it seems like people can't carry the weight of maturity. They can be super intelligent and emotionally stunted. I think we've got someone in the White House at this point that's the exemplar of that. I think myself personally, when you ask me if I'm gifted, I was told that I was gifted by others when I was young as a musician, because at my age, I didn't sound like someone who played at my age because I was way more mature on it. So if you do the previous life thing, your ego can say, yeah, I was Beethoven or whatever. But no, I think what happened was, like Shen, I grew up mostly in other cultures, and I was the minority, and so I was hiding. And so I had 8 to 12 hours a day where I could play my guitar, and I got really good at it really fast because that's all I thought about. And then it was sports and guitar were my whole thing. I got really good at sports. I think I am gifted by life with a good body and a good mind. I think that's life gave me that. And what I gift other people around me now, I think is probably my experience and my patience. And I don't gift like Jerome. I don't help thousands of people. I help individuals one at a time, which seems to be my bailiwick. And I do it unannounced and unbidden and without seeking remuneration, because it's just a part of me tithing back, because I too have mainly been a jerk in my whole life. Up through until I met Karen, I was not, any of you would not like to hang out with me. because I was just brutally honest about what I saw to be honesty, but really it was just me being mean because I could. And I think what we all need to do, well, no, we don't. We don't need to do anything. I think what's happening is right now there's this gradual awakening to how emotionally stunted most people are. The emotional stuntedness is what makes us all not be able to function. It's why we need rules, is because we are emotionally stunted. Really super intelligent people without being emotionally mature, they're dangerous. They become sociopaths and psychopaths because they have no compassion. If you're not dealing from a point of compassion in the world, it's hard to understand emotions because they don't make any sense. So I have a tendency, people have called me cold because I'll just say no and walk away without an explanation. Try using the word no and don't explain yourself. That just freaks people out. When you just say no and you carry on, they're waiting for you to defend your point. They're waiting for you to come up and explain to them why they should, not have their way. Well, because I don't care if you have your way. I really don't. But I will give you the shirt off my back if it's cold and you need a shirt. Absolutely. But that's not out of my love for humanity. It's out of my just leave me alone. I want to continue on with my own life. I kind of have some of the same attributes as Shen in that I have been accused of being cold. I think the gift that we're all trying to get to here, the real gift, is to wake up. We've got to remember our humanity. We've got to remember what's important in this world. If we don't remember what's important, then we're doomed to follow what's going on in the world right now with the authoritarians coming in and saying, we have all the resources and you guys work for us and you guys don't get anything. And if you don't like it, we have the courts, the guns, and the lawyers. And so you better get used to it. No, we don't have to get used to it. Civil disobedience works. It totally works. If 70% of the population says, hell no, and they don't go to work, and they don't show up, and they're not following your rules, they can't arrest everybody. They don't have enough. You're going to have to go back and get more guys because there's more of us than there are of you. So what I'm saying is the gift we have is each other. And we all should look at each other not as a threat, but we should look at each other as our potential wisdom. Each one of you has a piece of my puzzle that I would love to know that I don't know right now. And if we all share that, at some point, we become better than we were. And so that's my thought about gift is we should leave people feeling better about who they are because of our gift.
Thank you, Dave, on dropping that bomb on us. Thank you. Prison story. I used to use the word no like a weapon. And it took a long time to learn to use the word no because you want to help people naturally. And you get to the point where you start telling people, hey, hold on for a minute, just a moment, hold up. In prison, oh, that'll get you stabbed with the quickness. Let me tell you something. You telling the person to hold on for a minute and don't get back to him, and he's been waiting to get that phone call or supposed to go on that medical visit or doing whatever he's supposed to do, man, you got a shank waiting on you. So I'm telling you, I learned that real quick. No. Matter of fact, I learned it so well that when I met my wife, Kelly, she used to say, you say no a lot. Why do you always say no? Because it was like, you know what? It just answers everything. No. Would you like this? No. You want to go? No. No. That's it. What more is there to say? That is a complete sentence. And you have to learn that. But when you're a person who likes to help, and it's in your heart and it's in your nature to help a person, you got to bite your lip sometimes. You got to say, hey, tell that person I can't go out there and help you right now because I'm busy. It works different in a prison as out in the streets. Like I'm sure for you, Jerome, helping somebody out and saying, hey, we don't got any more food. And, that no will come out. They don't want to hear it. You ain't got nothing in the back of the truck. What you got in your backpack? I mean, it can work different ways.
That kind of touches on. Do you prefer to go by Shin? I'm looking at the bottom. What do you prefer? I can't hear you.
I think you're muted.
We might.
Sorry. Yeah, it don't matter, Shan or Robin. It doesn't. I have no preference. It's
Oh, okay.
yeah.
All right. Some of the aspects of what you shared, it's just like it resonated on a lot of levels, and it kind of touching with what Samuel just mentioned as well, because um, there are parts. I'm 6'3". I'm not a little guy, and I noticed that there's parts where I had to quote unquote, acquiesce and to pretend to be lesser in some way for it's not threatening to make other people feel comfortable. Okay, because that was part of the survival structure that I had to be that was forced upon me, and being a minority in this community. You know, even when it comes to the simple word as no, you know, um, I have there was part where, especially when you deal with people that uh, suffer from fear of missing out, or they feel that oh, why did you get the extra potatoes or something like that, as well, that we're feeding maybe 500 other people somewhere else, and you seem to have enough here, so I can't account for what you have there. And no turned out to be a form of self-defense. It I had to say yes a lot as a form of survival, but I had to relearn how to say no as a form of self-preservation. Okay, and using that, um, I mean, there would be the true story. I was talking to a guy. He was an unhoused gentleman downtown where we do a lot of open air work, so we go out into the communities where we're needed. And this guy was just like, I'm not waiting in no effing line. I'm not doing that. Pop, 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 and just cursing. We try to keep a family environment. And I said, sir, I understand it's a little frustrating, but if you just hold out, everything is going to be fine. I get all this F U's and da da da, and I'm thinking to myself, I could take this guy in a Mississippi second. But I have to think about the people that see me and what I represent to them. Okay. I'm supposed to be a safe place. So I talked to this guy and I said, hey, man, you can't talk like that. We have to do this and that, for us. We have people here, we have family, so on and so forth. He had enough. I guess he cursed me out to the point of exhaustion, and he walked off, right? And one of the guys told me, say, you know who that is, right? He's like, what is it? He's calling himself the angel of death. I'm like, what? He said he carries around like this 3-foot machete in his trench coat. And the deal was that when I turned my back to him and I walked away at one point, because there's something, you can't just fuel that anger. It just makes things worse. It just gets critical, but that was kind of the power of saying no and dealing with it. It was no. It was just my technique and how I use it. It was a form of preservation. But for whatever anger that this guy had, whatever, it was enough the way I was dealing with him, where I just let him have it. Just let it out, so we can move on. And that may have saved my life. To make a long story short, for anybody that has services that they offer the world, 1-on-1 or 1 to 1,000 or 1,000,000, spiritual self-defense is real. You have to be careful what you put out into the world, because you don't know how the world necessarily is going to react. Okay, because a lot of times people show up with the problems that you had nothing to do with. You had nothing to do with. All right, I might went on a little ramble there, but I got that out the way.
No. That's a necessary thing. It's what a joker said earlier. Everybody said, I think it was a joker or Dave wanted to. These things the conversation that we have, and this is like I refer to as high-minded conversations. You might think it and don't think no one else knows it. Dave might know it and have heard it before and lived it, and someone else might have just picked it up and said, wait a minute, what? This is what we're having those conversations for, finding out how you compensate for those things. The fact that you mentioned, and I've said it myself too, because I've had to, I'm a 6'3" black male, and it sure isn't easy. being a 6'3" black male in the current climate at times. You know, now we got Karens and things like that coming out there just waiting to start something. You know, I also had to learn what you did there. When working in a prison, I have to determine friend or foe before I turn my back on someone. If the phone rings and I'm engaged right here, before I turn my back, I know, well, hold up, I'm dealing with the angel of death. So before I turn around, you know, let me make sure that I have had disengaged, and now I can go back to go answer this phone, you know, or certain things like that. So yeah, you're aware of certain things innately, but other people aren't. And that's why we're having these conversations, because it's something to learn. It really is something to learn. That is a true gift to have in this world, to be able to discern those kind of things like that. Dave, I see you moving around. You got anything else to say about that?
Yeah, it's the gift to individuals, just like Jerome said, just like Shen said, and just like Ajiko says, and just like you say, it's our individual impact on people. I'll give you two short stories from my life. Back when I was heavy into speed and I was a rock and roll musician, I had access to a club at all hours. So I was in a club writing a song. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I hear this knock on the door. And I open the door, and there's this lady who was a homeless person in the town I was living in, and they called her Black Betty because she was a black woman, thin as a rail, and she was pretty much nuts, and no one wanted to talk to her because she was sometimes violent. I opened the door, and I knew who she was, and I said, "What do you want, Betty?" And she goes, "You want to bite my hot dog?" Because she had a handful of hot dogs. And I said, "You bet. Let me have some of that." And I ate half of it and gave it back to her. And the look on her face when I bit that hot dog, she was so pleased. She got to have human contact. And I was so entertained because it's 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm speeding my tail off. And then there's this woman there that everyone says is nuts and crazy and carries a knife this big that I should be really afraid of. I said, "No, I'll bite your hot dog." And I bit her hot dog and made her so happy. She just smiled at me. And from then on, she would wave at me when she saw me in town. I was human to her. My last and only other story I'm going to tell you, I was out in front of a grocery store one time, and the grocery store manager was reading the riot act to this homeless guy who was pushing one of his carts away. And he wanted, because he had everything he owned in this cart. And the store owner told me he couldn't have it, made him unpack it right there. And the guy was so disjointed. He sat there in front of the store with all of his stuff on the ground. His pants are falling down around his legs because he doesn't have a belt, and he's so damn skinny. And he's just mumbling incoherently there. And I came out of the store and he was still there doing that. And I walked over to him and I said, "Hey man," I said, "you're having a bad day?" And he goes, no, he can't really understand because he's kind of crazy. And I said, "Well, here," I said, "have you eaten today?" And he goes, "I don't know, food. Yeah, I have food. I would like some food." And I said, "Okay, do you know how to buy food?" And he says, "I would go to that place and eat right." There was a couple of fast food places. I said, "Here's $20, man." I said, "Get yourself some food." I said, "By the way, pull up your pants. It looks really silly. No one's going to talk to you when you got your pants falling around past your ass." And he started laughing. And I think what happened for him was I joked with him. I didn't look down on him. I didn't make him feel less than. I brought him right up to my level. I said, "Dude, look, let's be real. You walk around with all these white folk here. You got your pants around the those people, they got rules. They got morals, man, and you're not in that. They're not in their club. And if you're going to be here doing that stuff, first of all, you're not going to make any money panhandling. And second of all, it's doing you no good. So take part of that money and buy a belt, buy a rope, buy a bungee. Put your pants up, man, because when you walk around, people give you more respect." And the same thing, he came out of his incoherency and he said, "Thank you, man." He said, he says, that was nice of you to do that for me." So it's two instances from my life when everybody told me that person was crazy, and I just didn't care. Because first of all, I don't care. If you're nuts, I've been nuts. I've been homeless a few times, and I've had lots of money a couple of times. And my personality never changed either way. I'm an old hillbilly from out of nowhere. And I've had to unlearn all the bad things I learned when I was young from my hillbilly relatives. Just like Shen was saying, you got the things that you learn when you're a kid that you cannot ignore. They're there. Things that you did in your life. You can't say, "Oh, I'm over it." No, we carry every little story with us. Every little thing we do is still there. We just have to name those demons, put them on a shelf so that they don't bug us anymore. You've got to name your demons. You got to face it. If you don't face your demons, they're just always going to come up again and come up again and come. As soon as you name them, you can deal with it. You say, no, I know who you are. I know what's happening. Go get in your box. I'll talk to you later. And you can compartmentalize. You can get rid of it. So I just say, go back to what I was saying earlier. Everybody got problems. Everybody got gifts. And all we have to do is use our gifts for each other, not just for ourselves. And if we do that, we're going to make a better world.
That brilliant. I'm like, I love that. Out of curiosity, between Dave and Shen, what was the catalyst? What was the moment where you said you had to change? It seemed like when you were in one mode of life, or for as maybe your selfishness or what have you, for lack of a better word, to where you saw outside yourself.
Well, I think to point to some single catalyst would be doing a disservice to the the pageant of your life, the grand.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to say, and I think it makes for better stories, to say that there was a time when I hit rock bottom, or I hit, or things weren't working out, or what, something that happened, because again, that makes for cool stories. But for me, that's really not the way it worked. I think it was a decades long series of small events that kept nudging me in a better direction. You see what I'm saying? You speak to somebody in one way, and then this person had a lot more power than you thought, and you were quickly put in your place. Or somebody says to you, hey, why did you speak to that person like that? That wasn't cool, and you're suddenly embarrassed, or and it's just it's like in Lord of the Rings, Gandalf says, greatness isn't from great deeds. It's from everyday little acts of kindness. And it was both a push and a pull, right? There's a push where somebody calls you out, and especially people that you looked up to call you out for being petty or stupid or whatever. And at the other end of the spectrum, when you inadvertently did something nice and somebody reached out to you and said, hey, thanks. And that's, I think, something that goes into this conversation that we're having. When you say thank you to somebody that maybe you didn't have to go out of your way to be grateful to that person, and you made them feel good, like this guy with the pants, and or your angels of death or whatever. You taught them something. You didn't just teach yourself something, you taught them something. And you may not have turned their life completely around, but you nudged it, right? Like you have to do a 180 degree turn around in your life. You don't do it in one shot. You do 1 degree 180 times.
Yeah, I agree with that. Jerome, I'll tell you this. It's a lot of people are just waiting for that Saul Paul moment where one moment you're this way and one moment you're that way. I agree with Shen. For me, there was not an event that triggered me. What happened was a gradual emotionally maturing and understanding what worked and what didn't work. My main motivation in life is, did it work? Did it not work? And I've always had the ability, this is another gift I was given, that I can look at it and go, no matter how much I like doing that, it doesn't serve me. And so I got to quit doing that. And at some point, the snowball's at the top of the hill and it goes over, and you start saying, oh, I'm starting to get it now. I can see when I'm kind and when I help and when I'm not destructive, and I don't lie, and I don't cheat. And when you do all that stuff, it becomes just a way of life. It's ingrained in you. And that's the Zen that Sam's referring to, is when you understand that life isn't a yes or no, it's a maybe. And if you understand that it's a maybe, you always have a choice. And if you have that choice, make a good choice. Write a good story. You're the one writing it. No one else writing your story. You're writing the story. So write a good one.
Right, and I think also, you talk about, I think we all experience this because, Joko, you're raising a child, and I think you guys have all raised children or whatever. You didn't just tell them say please and thank you once, right? I mean,
No.
you might have to remind them again tomorrow or within the next few minutes, right?
He's grown. He's a grown man now, and is
Right,
super
right,
respectful, and he understands why that it was important to be. There's so much more to be gained by learning to be respectful.
right,
Once as a kid, they're learning it, and they don't know what the benefits will be. But as a parent, there will be benefits. So you maintain the consistency in
right,
terms of enforcing it, and then they get grown. That you see them become adults, and this attitude has fostered this understanding, this appreciation has
Mhm.
right.
fostered gifts
Mm.
to them and gifts that they are to others. And then okay, I did the right thing.
Right. And it
Yeah.
wasn't it
Yeah,
wasn't an overnight process, and there wasn't one
no,
aha epiphany for him. It was, like Aristotle says, it's habits that slowly become character.
true.
There,
Very
with all that being said, I'm going to throw out another prison story. Jay is just full of them today. I don't know why, but it's just coming out because
You
what
go.
you're talking about, Dave was talking about, and even Robin, in prison every day, you had to deal with people who were just right off the streets, running wild. Each one of those inmates was like a case study for me. They never had structure. That's what happened. They never had structure. And as a federal corrections officer, that's what we instilled into them. They had to get up in the morning and make their beds because they never did it before. I ain't gonna make my bed. I just pulled them blankets off his bed, and after about 2 days of being cold, he's gonna make that bed up right. You know what I'm saying? So there's little things you got to learn to do and give them structure. This guy sitting around looking like he ain't got nothing to do. Say, hey man, why don't you take an ESL class upstairs in the rec room? Why don't you go do out this physical? They got these classes down here. I would make these suggestions to them, and then they would go, and then I would watch the guys go through anger period, go through an education period, go through getting ready to get released period, go through coming back, and then when I run into a guy in the street, he goes, Davis, hey man, that guy right there, man, he helped me out when I was in prison, man. He showed me how to do this. It's one of the good feelings when you see that someone has never had structure. It's like being a parent. It sounds funny, but to a male or female inmate, you are a parent to them. You're giving them structure, and that's what it is. That's a gift. That's another gift. And with that being said, another hour has came and went. Can you believe it, folks? Can you believe it? So I just want to remind you, go to www.upliftourcommunity.com. We're working on an app. Sign up, and whenever you can, check us out. And thank you all this week. I appreciate you all for donating your time and spending it with us here today. And we'll catch you on the next one. Boom. After show.